Yeah, surfing into another segment of the SportsMax zone, it was a tough weekend for the English-speaking Caribbean in Davis Cup as both Barbados and Jamaica suffered losses in playoff action. The Bajans took a 1-1 scoreline into Saturday's final day of their Group 1 playoff tie against hosts Colombia at the Complejo de Raquetas complex after Darian King followed up Xavier Lawrence's loss in the opening singles match to Nicolas Mejia with a 6-2, 6-4 win over Adria Soriano Barrera. King again drew the scoreline level at 2-2 after losing the doubles encounter before Kuiper Marshall was beaten 6-2, 6-2 in the decider as Colombia registered the 3-2 victory. Meanwhile, Jamaica were relegated to Group 3 after losing their Group 2 playoff tie to New Zealand at the Eric Bell Tennis Centre in Kingston. Things were all square at 1 apiece, setting up an exciting final day on Sunday. Gerard Morseely tells us more.
When Blaise Bicknell took the court against New Zealand's #1 ranked Ajit Rai, Jamaica trailed 2-1 in the tie. But the 23-year-old produced a significantly improved performance from his defeat on Saturday. His usually impressive serve and huge forehand proved the backbone of a fighting 6-3, 6-4 victory.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great match. I really fought hard today, played out the heart. There's some things I could have done better, but overall I fought really hard and I'm happy to get the job done.
Like it was a year ago against Barbados, the tie was now level and Jamaica's hopes rested on the shoulders of 30-year-old Roland Phillips. But in his way was a tenacious 20-year-old, the lefty who came from a set down to beat Bicknell on day 1 of the tie. Phillips used his experience and all-court presence to race into an early lead, the country's winningest Davis Cup player. Surviving a marathon 18-minute final game to snatch the opening set 6-3. In the second, Phillips went up an early break and had chances to go 3-love up, but when the young Kiwi was held at 1-2, he called for medical timeout. The break worked in his favor as he won 5 of the next 6 games to take the second set 6-3. With the crowd fully behind him, Phillips again found another gear and took the early lead in the third. He went up 2-love, but once again, the visitor had the answers. And in the end, youth prevailed as allowed it in only his third Davis Cup match, completed the heroics when Phillips sailed a forehand long 3-6, 6-3, 6-3 for New Zealand, who celebrated a 3-2 win in the tie.
Feels a bit familiar. But no, this time actually felt, I don't want to say better, but I played better, I fought harder, I left it all out there. I think if I did play like this against Barbados, we would have seen a different result.
It's a pretty great feeling. I don't think it's sunk in fully what I've just done, but it's an absolute honor to play for my country, to play for any country, and yeah, just feels great right now.
New Zealand have now advanced to World Group 2, while Jamaica have been relegated to the Americas Group 3.
Yeah, tough weekend as we said at the top for both Jamaica and Barbados in Davis Cup. Barbados now down to Group 2 where Jamaica is leaving and Jamaica will play in Group 3. Lance and Mariah, it was a terrific weekend of Davis Cup tennis in Kingston, but I want to start in Colombia because I want to make some comparisons here between two players who I have tremendous respect and admiration for, Darian King and Roland Phillips. And I'll start with Darian because although Barbados lost in Colombia, what Darian achieved was testament to one, of course, his amazing quality, but his grit, his desire, especially when he is playing for his country. As it is now, Darian King is barely ranked in the top 2,000 in the world. Of course, we know at his very best, he's been just outside the top 100. He goes to Colombia, playing on clay that the Colombians would favor against players ranked in the top 300 in the world. Yeah. And he wins 2 matches in straight sets to give Barbados a chance. And I just think that is so commendable because, and it's the magic of Davis Cup. In football, people talk about the magic of the FA Cup, for example, in England. This is the magic of the Davis Cup, where you have lesser ranked players on paper, seemingly players with even lesser quality, punching significantly above their weight. And Darian King, a former top player, as I said, so you cannot forget that. But what he did for Barbados on the weekend, just to keep them in that tie. And they weren't far away, at least in the first set of the doubles that they lost 7-6, 6-2. But I just think it's so special when you have players like that, when you have individuals like that who raise their level when they are competing for country.
Yeah, and I agree with you about Darian King's tenacity. Remember him in 2017 contesting the U.S. Open at Flushing Meadow in New York when he was beaten by Alexander Zverev, who reached the Aussie final a couple of weeks ago. And we know he's a natural ball player as well because he's actually a very good footballer, Darian King. Plays for Watton in the local league in Barbados. So really good on him, you know, and he's had injury issues as well. You know, part of the reason why he's ranked so lowly now in the ATP rankings is because of inactivity on the pro scene, because he's had injuries stopping, you know, his ability to flourish in pro tennis.
Yeah, and then to Roland Phillips. And generally, let me first of all make a general comment about the Jamaica team. The Jamaicans got back. They had been knocked out of Group 2 last year, this time by Barbados. They then went to the Americas Group 3 tournament without Roland Phillips, by the way, and they were eliminated. They finished at the back end of that tournament. Following a change in the rules, the Americas region got an additional spot into Group 2. And that's how the Jamaicans got back into Group 2 playoffs to take on New Zealand. Now, Blaise Bicknell has been ranked as high as number 306 in the world. But he's been inactive competitively for the last 6.5 months because of a hip injury and hadn't played a tournament in the build-up to the Davis Cup. So it meant that 4 New Zealand players were ranked higher than the highest ranked Jamaican player going into this tie. On paper, it should have been a no contest. In fact, New Zealand had a 28-year-old by the name of Kiran Pulpanu, who was in Jamaica last summer playing in the M15 tournaments that were here. He won one and got to the final of another. And that was the big name. He was the New Zealand number 2.
And what happened to him?
And when you look at it like that, Lance and Mariah, you're thinking, yeah, the Jamaicans will have no chance in this one. Then on the opening day, Blaise Bicknell, who is the Jamaican number 1, we know of his quality, and if Blaise is at his best, he can challenge these guys who are ranked just inside the top 500, the top 2 New Zealanders. Blaise loses in 3 sets. And if you were at the Eric Bell Tennis Center on Saturday, you could feel the mood drop after Blaise Bicknell lost, because I think a lot of individuals felt, boy, this is it. It's not looking good. We're going to be shut out at home.
The only chance the Jamaicans would have had was for Blaise to give them the good start, the winning start.
For Blaise to give them the winning start. And it didn't happen. And then Roland Phillips stepped onto the court. In fact, I think a few of the fans left after the Blaise Bicknell match on Saturday. And then Roland Phillips stepped onto the court. Who did he step onto the court against? Panu. That's the man that the Jamaicans feared because they had seen him at the ITF tournaments in Kingston last year. And Roland Phillips played one of the best matches I have seen him play. He was so solid. His serve, he was serving bigger than I've seen Roland Phillips serve. He was hitting his forehand brilliantly. His backhand was solid for the duration of the match. And he wore Panu down brilliantly. Then on Sunday, Blaise takes care of business. And like it was a year ago, Phillips tries to close it out. He didn't do it. But there was something that stood out to me, Lance and Mariah, which I think tells the story and the appreciation that the Jamaican tennis fans have for Roland Phillips. At the end of the contest, for about 2.5 to 3 minutes, the fans stood and they applauded, and the applause just wouldn't stop. Lance, you would remember 1996 Olympic Games when Merlinotti went up to collect the silver medal that many fans thought should have been gold, and they wouldn't stop applauding. It reminded me of that following this match on Sunday.
Yeah, and one of the things that we have to highlight is that Roland Phillips is almost now a part-time tennis player, because he had
not almost.
He had semi-retired last year, didn't he? Had retired and now has a day job. So he, in truth and in fact, is not playing tennis as diligently now as he had been 2 years ago. So this performance over the weekend at the Eric Bell Tennis Center must be looked at in an even more admirable way because of that fact. By the way, like Darian King, he's also a very good footballer. Roland Phillips has a lot of football talent. His dad played football excellently, Rennie Phillips, and also an outstanding tennis player, Rennie Phillips. So I guess he has it in his DNA.
There's a trend, so
and
you know what you need to do.
Before we wrap, so as you pointed out, he did retire last year. And sometime about August, September, after the America's Group 3 disappointment and after the team got back into Group 2, decided to come back. And I've witnessed firsthand to see, well, I was going to say young man, but he's 30. He runs from work to tennis as part of his fitness, and it's regular that individuals will see him on the road in Kingston running as part of building his fitness. When I saw him at the last ITF tournament, he lost a match, but I thought to myself, he's improving. And then the Davis Cup captain said yesterday, in the last 2 weeks, he has looked like a player transformed. But quickly, have to give the National Association a lot of credit, because without the ITF tournaments, I don't think Roland would have made the improvements he did. Not just the matches, but the opportunity to train with players of a really high level over a period of 2 to 3 weeks, I think, assisted him significantly. But we're out of time. We have to go. Tough luck to the Jamaicans, but it was a great weekend in Kingston. Tough luck to Barbados as well, but Barbados will still be in Group 2. Jamaica will have to fight to get back there next year this time. Let's take a break. Interactive to close after this.